Hi, I'm Patrick Anderson, and this is the Mach-E vlog. This is a video in which I update you on all the Mustang Mach-E news. I made one of these back in July. If you haven't checked that one out, I'll put a link above so you can check out some other news and get caught up. Before I get started covering each news article, I'll just let you know down below in the description, I'll put links to each of these articles as well as timestamps so you can jump ahead to whatever topic interests you. For me, one of the most exciting pieces of news that came along over the past couple of months was a user over at Mach-E forums got to do a ride-along in a first edition Grabber Blue Mustang Mach-E. Over at Mach-E forums, there was a long discussion with some questions and answers answered by Joe. That was the user that did the ride-along. So if I were you, watch the video, but I would also go visit Mach-E forums. There's a lot of good information and follow-up there. But here are some of the highlights that I think you might want to know about. First of all, the ride-along passenger was 6'1". He said the front seat was very comfortable. The back seat wasn't bad. He said probably wouldn't want to do more than a couple of 100 miles, but that's good to know on any vehicle that you're going to buy. As you may know, one of the reasons that I'm going with the Mustang Mach-E over something like the Tesla Model Y is the fit and finish. Joe was asked about the fit and finish of the Mustang Mach-E that he rode in. Now, of course, that's a pre-production model, but he said it was very nice. And just in general, I believe that Ford, with their experience in manufacturing, that they're going to have a very good fit and finish on the final product. Although the Mach-E is an electric vehicle, one of the concerns for people is the road noise and how quiet the cabin will be. Joe also mentioned that it was very quiet inside, comparable to a Tesla as far as road noise. Hopefully it'll be a bit better. I've heard that some of the Model Y, the Model 3, can have a lot of road noise at highway speed. Something that was of interest to me that he answered was, how is the lag in using the sync software that's new in the Mustang Mach-E? The potential for lag was also a concern for Joe, but he was pleased to say that there wasn't any lag that he could see in using the sync software in the Mach-E. So that's great news for me. I'm very excited to actually test it out myself. Of course, many people are concerned about the 0 to 60 times for the Mach-E. The ride-along was done in a first edition, which is basically like a premium all-wheel drive extended range. Joe was able to do some informal timing of the 0 to 60 times, and he came up with about 5.0 to 5.5 seconds, which is excellent. The target for the car, according to Ford, was mid 5 seconds. So 5.0 to 5.5 sounds a little bit better than that, and could be due to the estimation that Joe was doing, or it could be that it's actually doing a little bit better than Ford's initial estimates. One of the great features on the premium, as well as the first edition, is that it has a glass roof. And Joe made the comment that it's a passive glass roof, that during the day when he was riding in it, that the roof appeared fairly dark, so it blocked out a lot of the sun. But the person that he was doing the ride-along with said that at night it lightens enough so that you can see stars. So that sounds pretty cool. Can't wait to see that as well. Some other general observations that were reported. The car handles very well into twisties, has a very low center of gravity, which is sort of to be expected. Joe mentioned that the cargo space looked about the same as what a Model Y would have, so that's sort of also expected. He also noted that the B&O sound system sounded great, which I would hope so, but it's good to hear that feedback. There were a couple of negatives reported by Joe. One was the view out of the rear window. When I did a test drive of a Tesla Model Y, it was very, very limited. So I'm not sure how it compares with that, but he rated that pretty low on the Mach-E as well. So hopefully it's better than a Model Y, but I'm not counting on it being great for sure. And the other negative mention is the gear shifter. It's like a rotary dial on the center console. You can see that in a lot of the publicity photos for the Mach-E, and Joe was not a fan of that. Again, there's a lot more in the details. If you haven't, I would go visit Mach-E forum. You can just go and look at all the great topics that they have there, but I'll put a link directly to this topic in the comments, in the description below. Another cool bit of news is that Ford of Europe released a YouTube video that covered a lot of the new features that are going to be on the Mach-E, specifically in the new Sync 4A system. In total, the video is about 30 minutes in length, but I'll give you some of the highlights that I picked out from the video, but I'll also put a link to this in the description as well. One thing that they mentioned several times in the video was the remote vehicle setup. And there's sort of two parts to this. One is the initial setup before you actually get your Mach-E. You'll get an invitation to set up your Mach-E on Ford Pass, and you'll be able to set up a bunch of different settings, up to 80 personalized settings, and then send that to the Mach-E when you pick it up for the first time. You can also do remote vehicle setup for like a trip. If you're getting ready to go on a longer trip, you can tell it what time you're going to leave and where you're going, and the Mach-E will have it mapped out. It will also like preheat or pre-cool the cabin for you, as well as map out charging stations that are going to be along the way and how long you'll need to stop at each charging station. In the video, they sort of demonstrated how the new sync is going to work. It's basically going to have what's known as cards, and each of those cards will have something like Spotify or your phone app or messages app or whatever. Instead of like bringing up each card to control like the volume on Spotify, you'll be able to make adjustments just by tapping on that card. So you can have navigation running in the bigger window, the top half of sync, and then cards running down below with other functions. It sounds pretty intuitive and sounds like it'll help you in multitasking like the way you really would when driving your car. A few other things that they noted in the video were the parking features, and I'll talk about that in one of the other news articles. And they also mentioned that it will have a full digital manual that's on the Mach-E, so you'll be able to pull up information about the Mach-E as well as even watch videos on the big center screen. One of the big features that Tesla owners love is the over-the-air updates, and they can get new features rolled out periodically. And Ford is trying to compete with that. And one of the enhanced features that they talked about was that it'll have a rollback function. So if you install an update and there's a bug or there's something that you just don't like about it, you'll be able to roll back to the previous version of sync in your Mach-E. There's a lot of other little things covered in the video. It's 30 minutes long, but go ahead, give it a watch. Again, the link is down in the description. In another cool video, this time from Ford of Norway, a Ford employee took a Mustang Mach-E and drove it in Norway for 484 kilometers, which is about 301 miles, and still had battery left. This isn't an official test. It doesn't mean that the final EPA number for the range for the Mach-E will be over 300 miles, but it is pretty cool to see 301 miles accomplished on a Mach-E and still have a little bit of battery left. In some tech-related news, BorgWarner, one of the partners for the Mustang Mach-E, announced some details behind the integrated drive module that's going into each Mach-E. They issued a press release along with a photo of the integrated drive module and talk about some of the benefits of the system that they're using. Every rear-wheel drive Mach-E will have one of these integrated drive modules. In the all-wheel drive versions of the Mach-E, it'll have one of these modules in the rear, as well as a smaller module in the front. In the GT, it looks like it's going to have two of the larger integrated drive modules, one in the front and one in the rear. You can check out all the details as well as download the press release at one of the links in the description. Some more news that was reported by several outlets is that outgoing Ford CEO Jim Hackett reportedly said in the second quarter earnings call that for Ford to build battery factories right now would be pointless. A lot of critics picked up on that and called it short-sighted by Ford, but I think there's a couple of reasonable explanations. First of all, he said, for now. That doesn't preclude them from building factories in the future. Some people also pointed out that battery technology is evolving quickly, and by Ford not having their own factories, they can sort of pick and choose what technologies they should invest in the future. If they invested in a factory right now, they would be stuck with whatever technology that factory is using. By using others and outsourcing their batteries, they can, wait until a later point and decide which one they want to invest in when they actually build their own. I think a lot of this criticism is because Tesla, of course, famously builds their own battery factories, and it makes sense for them. They build far more electric cars, and they started many years ago, so it was sort of a necessity for them. There wasn't a battery source for EVs like there is now. My hope is that the Mach-E is a runaway success, and it forces Ford to go ahead and build their own factories. Something else that was cool along the lines of marketing was from Ford Performance. They actually created a 1,400 horsepower Mustang Mach-E that was sort of like a special edition. It had 7 electric motors. There's lots of videos on this. In fact, I made one. I'll put links to that above and below in the description. Just amazing piece of machinery. And if you haven't seen it yet, you should check out the other videos now. As the Mach-E is getting closer to production, there are little tidbits of rumors that are floating out there of exactly when production is going to start and how many vehicles they are going to start. And over at EV Byte, they got a hold of a slide that sort of indicates that there will be about 3,000, just over 3,000 Mach-E's produced in October and 4,000 in November. It's not known exactly where this slide came from, what was before and after. There was a comment made that it was irrelevant what was before and after. The only thing to worry about is that there's 3,200 Mach-E's being made in October and 4,000 in November. If the estimates are correct, that means that the first editions may be hitting dealers by December, which would be very exciting for me. That's what I have in an order for a first edition. So fingers crossed that this is accurate and truthful. Something that they touched briefly on in the sync video is the fact that the Mach-E will be able to help you find parking spaces, whether it's just on-street parking or in parking garages. And for some parking garages, it'll even let you prepay for a space and reserve it ahead of time. They're using the technology from a company called INRIX. I believe that's how you pronounce it. It's INRIX. And I'll link to a video that shows the technology being used on BMWs currently. I imagine that the Mach-E system would be very similar, except with the Sync 4 wrapper around the system. That's all I have for right now. It was actually a surprising amount of news for a car that still hasn't even gone into full production yet. I imagine that there will be even more news in the coming months, so subscribe to the channel right now, and that way you'll get notified if I release another video. Or you can visit machevlog.com. I'll try to post the news updates as soon as I get them on there. I also have some other good info on there. I have some Mach-E wallpapers, some FAQs, a gallery of Mach-E's in all the different colors, and some links to buy some Mustang Mach-E t-shirts like the one I'm wearing. As always, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll hope you stick around and watch some of my other videos.